Hello, this is Hilary Robertson. Welcome to the 12th episode of Harmonious World. I have lots of exciting interviews lined up for the coming weeks. I'm delighted to have been joined today by drummer Kenrick Rowe. You may not know his name, but you will definitely have heard his music. He is a renowned drummer. He is well known for his work with PJ Harvey. He's currently the Specials drummer. He was on their album Encore, which came out in February 2019 and went to number one, which was very exciting for them and brilliant that a band that's been established for so long should have so much success, at least in part thanks to the playing of Kenrick himself, but also Nikolai Torp Larsen and Steve Craddock, who are immensely talented musicians. But Kenrick is also well known for being the drummer with PJ Harvey, who we talk about in this interview, and with lots and lots of other, mainly British musicians, but he plays with people all around the world, and you'll hear us talk about the work that he's been doing with international artists. So, here's my interview with Kenrick Rowe.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad, thanks. Not too bad.
Excellent.
Just a bit hot.
Oh, I know, it's horrible, isn't it? But no, I suppose we can't complain.
No, we can't complain at all.
So, the whole point of Harmonious World is to share what you do, what you're so good at with other people.
Yeah.
As a mother of a son who's a drummer, I'm aware of the complexity of it, both as a skill, but also, you know, managing your life and getting gigs and all the rest of it. So I'm interested in how you have got to where you are now, where you're one of the go-to drummers in the UK, aren't you? And sort of how you got there and the things that you've been doing. And then obviously we'll talk a bit about lockdown and a bit about the future. And the starting point for me was the reason I thought this would be a good time to talk to you. And you've been on my list for since I started this podcast as somebody who I would ask at some point. But the reason I wanted to ask you now is because I saw that you'd been in Abbey Road this week.
That's correct, yes. I was, on Monday. In fact, it was my first full drum kit since the lockdown started in March, the end of March, you know.
Wow.
So I had a rehearsal on the Saturday and then we filmed. It's part of the Carnival lockdown series.
Oh, brilliant.
So it's being filmed. So I think it's actually going out on the 31st of August. It will be broadcast. I'm not sure the actual links, but I think it's like Carnival Lockdown or something like that.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll find the link and I'll put it in the show link.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Okay, so, and you also, a couple of months ago, you posted an image of a video of you on Top of the Pops playing guitar.
Correct, that's right. Which, I mean, my story, you know, like the music is quite, I mean, I started music really late, you know, like where I get talking to some of my friends and, oh yeah, when I was 7, I was doing this, when I was 8. I actually started probably when I was about 15, but I had an interest from an early age, but my interest was more in the guitar. You know, I had a younger brother that was playing drums as well. Like, this is when we kind of eventually decided that we were going to actually play instruments, you know, like we were about 14, 15, and we could actually afford to save from our paper rounds and milk rounds enough to scrape and buy cheap instruments, you know. So my brother got a cheap drum kit, I got cheap guitar, and we kind of started to kind of like pick things from records, you know. And I kind of just found myself, you know, leaning towards a drum kit in later years. It was something to do, sit down, try and work out beats on the records, you know, and just found myself really liking, just loving how the drums worked, you know, like the same thing you were describing about the coordination and realizing things that sound really easy on the ear, when you actually go to physically play it, you realize that you've got to work on one bit here, one bit there, then the feet come into play, then you've got to work with the timer to make sure that you'll keep, you know, so there's a lot of work involved, you know. So the bit you see me playing top of guitar. That was when I had a very short guitar career. And I think one of the reasons why it was shortened was because there were people that actually identified that I was quite good at the drums, had a good groove. I didn't have much technique, but it's like I had that thing. And I was doing a recording session one day as a guitarist, and the drummer didn't turn up with a singer called Sugar Minot.
Oh, yeah.
And the drummer didn't turn up. And so that, we waited for hours, and this is right, Kenrick, you've got to go and play the drums. And I did. They sent the tapes back to Jamaica, and everyone was saying, who's that drummer? And, and we had a couple of hit records from that session. So everyone says that's your instrument. So that's why I made the switch from guitar to drums, Well,
and we're all very glad you did, I think.
Yes, people have said that to me. That's right.
Yeah, because you've really found your thing. I mean, you are extraordinary. And what I particularly like about you is that you play in so many different genres without dropping a beat.
Yeah, that's another, I think when I was actually playing I started off in reggae bands, initially, but I used to be working with the older guys in the band, like Rico Rodriguez, Eddie Tantan, Mike Rose, all these older guys. They were always saying to me that I should learn to play jazz, and I really didn't have much liking to jazz music really at the time. And they said, "Oh, yeah, you've got to learn because of the technical aspects of it." And they dragged me to Ronnie Scott's one night to see Art Blake in the Jazz Messengers, which was the first proper live gig that I really watched. Having said that, my father used to play Oscar Peterson at home, and some Louis Armstrong. So I was actually hearing the jazz, but it wasn't my thing really. But I don't know, I got dragged to Ronnie Scott's one night, and it was just like, I just saw the light. I just thought, I want to play this style of music. And I remember, I got a book that had a tape at the time, and I would sit down and ting, 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 and then try and get the left foot going, right, and I found myself really spending loads of hours just working at it, so that was one thing. But I also found in my earlier, even in my before I became a teenager, I was listening to a lot of rock music anyway. I was exposed to Radio 1 and like a lot of my heroes were like, Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the usual lot, and then, so I think my ear was developing for other tastes of music, especially when I started to play jazz and you start to see the complexities, and I found myself doing, jazz gigs with visiting American musicians and, switching styles. Then, rock and roll music as well, dance, rock and roll stuff, Lindy Hop kind of music, so I got into blues, worked with Errol Links and Diz Watson pianists. So I was getting exposed to all different styles, and I actually learnt my first proper shuffle was through Art Blakey, and I was doing a gig one day, and a couple of blues guys was at a gig I was doing, and it goes to me, man, if you can do this shuffle on a blues thing, we'll hire you, That's how I kind of got involved in blues artists, because of that steady shuffle that I had, so I've always kept my ear open to different styles of music, which I didn't used to when I was younger. I used to be like, oh, this is not for me, but I really do appreciate a wide spectrum of different stuff, and consequently, it's led me to work with a lot of variety of artists doing different stuff, from films with Mike Gibb, Alex Wilson, or some of his library composition, so I've moved around from a lot of different styles and really enjoyed that contrast, you can do one style and you just sit there, oh, I wish I was doing something else, but I have moved around to different styles a lot,
Yes, and I think one of the most interesting things for me that you've done recently is the work that you've done with PJ Harvey.
Yeah.
I mean, Polly, she's one of those artists, and I think this is probably why she's almost a niche artist that you can't stick her in a box.
That's correct.
Which is what's great about her music, but I think it also makes it difficult for the music industry. Yeah,
it does make it difficult for the music industry, but I didn't really know much about PJ Harvey. I mean, I was working with Jerry Dammers, aka Orchestra. I was doing a gig at the Barbican, and he was experimenting with two drummers at the time. And he'd been calling me for a few years to work with the orchestra, but I was always busy. You know, it's like, oh, Kenrick, can you? And he used to come and watch me playing in Brixton at a pub called the Ephra. And he used to say, oh, Kenrick, I'd love to get you in the orchestra. You know, when he used to call me, I was always busy. And this particular time, I couldn't do many rehearsals, but I could do the date of the gig. And he goes, well, the music's quite challenging, so you're going to have to. So I made some time for rehearsals. PJ had Harvey and Flood, our producer, happened to be at the gig. And she was going to be doing a new album. And they just liked the way I played, you know. I got a phone call from Jerry Dammers saying, oh, a very famous rock star wants you to record, you know. So when he said PJ Harvey, I kind of usually knew the name, but not really the music that well. So I went online, did the research, and I was thinking, how the hell do I fit into this? Why me? Why would she want me into this? You know, but she's very interesting because, you know, they sent me the demos, but they didn't really send me no drum parts as such. So when I went to record, you know, they said to me, oh, let's not use no cymbals, you know, let's not do this. As usual, trying to experiment. So a lot of it, I had to layer drums, you know, like do snare drums, big marching stuff. And we had other musicians like John Parrish, who's our musical director. He played drums as well. John Mark Watine, who lives in New Orleans, he came over and he did some. So there's quite a few of us, but it was really interesting. And as I say, as you said, she is a unique, but she hears things that I'm thinking, wow, how did you think of that? Why did you think? Why did you put this chord here? Why did you have? Very interesting, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think she's so creative in the true sense of the word, literally creating things. You go, where did that come from?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Our songwriting's like, we did, I did a score with her, All About Eve. I think that was it last year.
Oh, yes. No, I think that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, or the year before last, I think. Yeah. And again, you know, she says, right, she's doing the score. She sent me the music, and I did, you know, done my part. So I went to her house to record it. And again, a couple of times I was coming up, she had some distress scenes, you know, and I was coming up with the usual, the cymbals, and she goes, why don't you do this? And you know, like, and she got some electronic thing, and we got these sounds making it sound like someone's in distress, and she just like, you know, that really interesting, you know.
Yeah.
It's good when you get artists like and producers that just come with things that you wouldn't think of. And that's how you learn yourself, you know. So when you do your own productions, you'll steal a few ideas from these interesting people, you know.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And one of the things that you've been doing, well, most of last year, well, probably a bit of 2018, I guess, was the recording, was the specials.
That's right, yeah.
Their first ever #1 album.
Yeah, and PJ Harvey, by the way, that was her first ever #1.
Oh, was it? Oh.
Yeah, the hopes, and it got a Grammy nomination as well, you know, so that was good to be part of that. And with the specials, you know, again, you know, Brad died, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, John Bradbury died, passed away, and, you know, I think it's difficult, you know, so I think they had another drummer filling in for a while, but then when they were going to do the album, my name kept coming up, you know, you've got to get Kenrick, and they were a bit dubious at first, and then Nikolai talked last week.
Oh, he's amazing, isn't he?
I actually did a gig with Nikolai, and it's like we just could not stop looking at each other throughout the gig. You know, it's like that kind of, you're playing, and I'm thinking, wow, we're so connected. And he was been doing the specials for about 10 years, you know, and he says, he told the specials, I met this drummer, he'd be perfect for the band. And they were a bit dubious, but then he arranged a gig with myself, Horace Panther.
Oh, yeah.
Steve Craddock. They were saying it was like a trial for the specials. They didn't say that at the time, tell me, and they really worked really good with me, you know, but they had another drummer that they was doing up and throughout the rehearsals. And then they started the album, and then when they listened back, it just wasn't working. And then I just got a phone call from the manager, my last minute, says, right, can you come to a rehearsals? And I walked into rehearsals, I'd learned a couple of tunes, you know, and when I started to play, they all kind of stood up, and Linville was there all jumping around, you know, they could tell something was going to happen. So we went in the studio over, I can't remember how many days, and we recorded the album. And as you say, the rest is history. You know? So
yeah.
As you can see, I've got a disc in the background there.
I can see that. And I saw your Instagram post when you got that. That's a really nice thing to have, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's great to have some kind of recognition, you know, whether it's verbal or a plaque or something, you know, because I think we all strive to, you know, to get somewhere in our careers and look back and say, well, I played on X amount of number one albums, I did this, I did that, you know, and I've received something, and yeah, it's really good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And in fact, I saw you with Nikolai and Steve Craddock and I can't remember who the others were.
Oh,
at the
yeah,
Club 85.
that's right. Yeah, that was the gig. Was Horace on bass? No, not that particular one.
No, that's right.
Yeah, he was on another gig after. Yeah.
Exactly. The Club 85 has been that you've been there a few times, and Horace has been there, and Nikolai, and I think George was on guitar.
That's right. George was on guitar. That's right.
Yeah, but that was Nikolai. He's an extraordinary pianist, isn't he?
He is. He's just a good musician. He's another one with that hearing, and you know, he does things that, you know, and he's a good arranger. I like his arrangements. He did a lot of the arrangements on the album, you know.
Did he?
He did. He was the main guy, you know. He done all the technicals, arranged the strings, everything. Yeah.
What I liked about that Specials album is that it's an album that sits well in 2019 when it came out. It doesn't feel like one of those, this is what we were doing 30 years ago, let's just rehash it. It does feel like something new. Yeah,
that's right. That's correct. And I know that sometimes, like, you know, there's always that tendency to kind of like, let's make this song slightly. I mean, there's one particular song that's got that movement of ghost sound in, that kind of chromatic thing or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, generally the songs are fresh, you know, and there's a couple of covered songs, you know, but yeah, it's a good album. It was, you know, what I liked about working with them is how relaxed everything was, you know. It's like, I've been on albums where there's lots of egos and the producers getting on the nerves and that, but everything was so relaxed. It was really nice.
That's brilliant. Which brings us to 2020.
Yeah.
And looking at your Instagram, it looks to me as if your last gig was at the Hideaway in Streatham. Was that the last one you did?
It probably was. Yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was with C.O. Brown, is it, on guitar?
Oh, Kyo.
Kyo, is that how you pronounce
Kyo.
it? I've never seen him.
Yeah, it could have been. I can't remember if that was the last. Maybe that was the last gig. Yeah, Kyo Brown, guitarist who normally has a lot of guests. You know, a lot of he always has a project at the Hideaway. I do quite a lot with him if I'm around. You know, but I think that was the last gig I did.
Right, because that's another great venue, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I mean, I heard that he was struggling a bit, like loads of venues with the COVID. You know, like, I think there's a few venues that are really going through it now at the moment, really difficult times.
Yeah. I mean, the 606 Club, you know, that's another one. You know, all of these really great, sort of really small venues, I think they're all struggling because they literally have had to stop for 5 months at the moment. And they've just got to try and find a way of making it work as soon as they are allowed to. So.
Yeah.
So what do you got planned? So you've been in Abbey Road once.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing a few projects at home as well. I'm doing a composition project with a group of musicians. You know, so we're kind of doing like theme music. You know, like for I think they've got contacts with the people that do Breaking Bad and House of Cards and all that kind of production team. So I've just been looking, you know, we've been sending music backwards and forwards, and then some of the stuff I do here at home overdubs some of the stuff. And there's a guy called Kit Packham as well, who I've been, Kit Packham he's like how would you call it? Like a kind of Rat Pack style music thing. So I've been putting some, you know, like we've been recording each bit at home and putting a video together. And then I've done a couple of sessions where people have just sent me the stuff, and I'm just recording drums at home for them, you know. And then I've got stuff of my own stuff that I've been sending out, because I do a bit of composition at home, but mainly more in the dance kind of commercial music side at the moment. And then the film stuff, TV stuff, now that's different as well, you know. So it's like I have to put on a different hat for percussion, timpanis and snare and stuff, and you know. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's great to move from one thing to the next. You know, I'm really enjoying that. You know, 1 minute you're doing some big dance thing, next minute it's atmospherics and you know, which I really do like.
Yes, I mean, I used the Quincy Jones quote about the harmonious world. You know, imagine what a harmonious world would be if we all shared what we're good at. But there's another Quincy quote. I'm a little bit obsessed with him because I think he's an absolute genius. You know, as a player, you hear him as sort of starting out, you know, in the whatever 50s, 60s as a player, and then, you know, started doing arranging and production and see all the stuff with Michael Jackson and, you know, his stuff. But the thing that inspired me really is he said the only music I don't like is bad music. And I really like that because, you know, you hear people like Jacob Collier. He's a prime example. He's another one of these guys that actually is quite hard to put into a box.
Yeah.
And he does these huge arrangements and uses a lot of other vocalists. He seems like a very generous composer. And I think that there's something really inspiring about people like that who don't care what type of music it is. They just play it and they just write it and create it. That's really good.
Yeah.
So what about live stuff? Have you got any live dates booked in yet?
Whoa, you know, it's like I had with the specials. I mean, we had a whole string of live stuff planned for this year. In fact, February we started to rehearse for the new album. You know, it was going to kind of, I think it was going to go to Jamaica to record, and then they were going to go to New York to record, and we were going to go in about June. So all that live stuff's really been put on hold. You know, anything I was meant to be doing another little tour with another group around the country during the summer if I was free. So basically, there's nothing that is really set in stone regarding any live work at the moment, you know? So it was really strange doing that, to actually get my drum kit out on Monday to go to Abbey Road, and it was really strange feeling to be lifting it up again, you know, and wow, you know, I remember this, you know, it just felt really strange. So I think they reckon if things stay as they are now and don't get too bad, I think October there might be a few people dipping into some stuff, you know, but I'm actually enjoying being at home, you know, because the last 5-6 years I've been on the road a lot, loads of touring, you know. With PJ we did 2 years, and then I was working with another project, and the specials I've been doing them as well. So I've been really backwards and forwards. So it's like now my feet are, you know, it's like I can actually start learning the technology that I've got, because I've had it, but you know, you're always on the move, and so you know, it's interesting. Plus, you know, I'm getting a chance to experiment with my own knowledge, and then I realised that I'm not really that good a keyboard player, so I have to send it to someone else to, you know. But it's interesting. It's really interesting. Yeah. But I think the online stuff is going to get more and more, you know, because me and my partner, you know, I had to produce a film for part of a company called Windrush Hour, which is, you know, which is like, basically the film is on stateoftrust.net, if anyone's interested. So I had to do a little film about calypso drumming, for example. And some of, like, Alan Weeks, I don't know if you've heard of him, guitarist.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Alan Weeks did one, and then the bass player, Michele Mantonoli, Italian, he did something, you know. So that was quite interesting, getting that together. So I had to basically do the lesson, film it at home, you know. So I went out and bought a whole load of film, 2 cameras, lighting, and, you know, just to make it, because I hate things looking amateurish, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've decided, because of the way, you know, the whole thing's going, that I might just do this reggae drumming video online, you know.
Yeah.
And Yamaha's agreed to help me with the production and stuff. Yamaha, because I get sponsored by Yamaha drums, and they've kindly said that they'll help me with the production. So at some point, I've got to sit down and write that, and how it's going to develop as the beginnings, and and how that's going to progress. So that's going to be quite interesting to do. So it's almost like I'm not even thinking about the live gigs in the same way, because it's a thing that you should just take for granted, but then you realize it's never going to be the same for a long time unless there's a vaccine. So I'm kind of preparing to kind of do both now. Like if the live thing comes, I'm ready for that, and I'm trying to make sure that I've got everything I need at home. I bought microphones, so I can do a bit of drumming at home as well, even though I can't go full out because of neighbours. But so the future is really, I think, it's going to be a lot of online, stuff.
And of course, the online has the benefit that you can collaborate with people anywhere in the world.
Correct. That's right. Yeah, which is what I'm finding really interesting now. How because this writing thing, like the guy did some stuff and sent it to me. And once the tempos are there, we can just lock in. Then I send it to someone else, and they put their bit. It's great, how that technology allows you to do that. You can move around, as you said, and it could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Yeah. So
brilliant. Thank you very much. It was a really interesting chat. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank
and
you
I'll
so
send
much.
you the link to Harmonious World.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, then so you can hear what it sounds like.
Yeah, and I could see some of the other interviews.
Yeah. So I've interviewed some great people. Do you know Mark Wade, the New York bass player?
I don't know him, no, but I know Robert Love.
Oh yeah, he was great. But Mark is a really interesting bass player. You should check out the podcast. But also, he's got a new album coming out literally now, and he's an amazing bass player. And I think he's quite like you in terms of thinking in different ways, and it's fascinating.
I will definitely check him out as well,
yeah.
and the other stuff. Yeah, so please send me the link.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, and stay cool.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Thanks, Kenrick. Bye.
Thanks, Hilary. Take care. Bye.
So, although the quality wasn't always great on that, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. It's always useful to chat to somebody. I've known Kenrick for a couple of years, but to be able to speak to him like that was amazing. It was really good. So I'll put all the links into the show notes, and I hope you're enjoying Harmonious World. Please do leave me a review if you are. 5-star reviews are great, but whatever you feel you can do. And do subscribe so that you can keep up to date with all of my forthcoming podcasts. Thanks for joining me, and have a good week. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.